22. It's not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6 lines from the top. It's Vitana Kama. So, we've been discussing the way that Malika is done, the difference between the Eilas Ha'if and the Chatas Ha'if. And you mentioned that it should be in, this discussion should be in Tzvachim. No, what's happening here is that these Mishnayos are doing these comparisons. What's kosher for this is possible for that. Today again we're going to have another one. What's kosher for this is possible for that. So it mentioned the place of Shechita, and it brought this in, and then it takes us into that contrast. And then we're going to have another contrast, and I think there's more to this, these contrasts. Okay. I just want to thank everyone for coming. So we mentioned this morning, 5:30 in the morning. Yeah. It's such a chashuv thing, and I'm zeichet to be part of it. So it's close for me. Okay. So, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, can you stay home once more? Just kidding.
So we said that the oil of Yored, it's a sacrifice that's brought, and on this scale, on this. If a person is wealthy, he brings an animal. If he's so-so, he brings 2 birds, one's a chatas, one's a Eily. And if he's poor, he brings the carbon mincha. We said that the second bird, if in this middle stage, is the Eily. When the pasuk discussed the Eily, it said the second one you bring as an Eily, kamishpat, like its ordinance, like its rule, or like the rule. He said, like what rule? So we have 2 possibilities. Either like the rule of the other bird, or like the rule of the chatas that it's replacing. Either a chatas ha'oif or a chatas behema. It's replacing a chatas behema, but its pair is a chatas ha'oif. So we had 3 opinions here of how to go about this. There's really only 2 options. It's one or the other. So the Tanakama says that it was the Rabbanan, that it's replacing, that it's following what it's replacing. It has the laws of a chatas behema. And there were 3 laws that we mentioned, that a chatas behema can't be brought from Meiser, it can't be brought by night, it needs to be by day, and also needs to be brought with the right hand, a special halacha. Ultimately, what comes out from that is that it's very different. We learn from a pasuk of Vihikrivai that the malika of a chatas ha'oif, of a Eilas ha'oif, is different than a chatas ha'oif. Vihikrivai, you bring it. That tells me that it has its own halacha, and that by the Eilas ha'oif you sever the head entirely, and by a chatas ha'oif you don't. It says v'lo yavdol, you don't cut it. Rabbi Yishmael, and then following that is Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon. They said that kamishpat, like its rule, is coming to tell me like the rule of a chatas ha'oif, not what it's replacing, but like its peer. That's the same halacha of its peer. So Rabbi Yishmael said it's coming to tell me that just like the chatas ha'oif, the malika is done on the back of the neck, mimul arpai, not on the head, but mimul arpai. So too, the Eilas ha'oif is mimul arpai. And then it asks, maybe you have to do it exactly the same, maybe you should sever the head, or maybe you shouldn't sever the head, because by the chatas ha'oif you don't, and by the Eilas ha'oif it doesn't say. So he said, no, v'hikrivai. V'hikrivai says that it's different, and therefore by they could hold like the Tanakama that the head gets severed. What's the difference, Rabbi Yishmael and the Tanakama? The difference would be what kamishpat is, like its rule. Its rule is referring to the chatas ha'oif, like Rabbi Yishmael says, or its rule is the chatas behema, the animal. And then we have Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon. He says kamishpat is like Rabbi Yishmael. Its rule is the chatas ha'oif, exactly like we said. The only thing is, he says that you have to hold just like by the Chatasayf you have to hold the head and the body when you're sprinkling. So to over here, you hold the head and the body in the sprinkling. I malak v'hiktir, or I v'hikrivai, that it's different, that it shouldn't be the same in the malika. So he says, yeah, well, you cut part of it, but you don't finish cutting it. So the v'hikrivai, the distinction of Chatasayf and Elasayf, in the comparison, tell me that are modifying each other in Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon, and you cut majority of it, but you don't cut it all the way. And that was the opinion that we were looking for, because we said, where's the Rabbanan and where's Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon about cutting the whole head by the Elasayf or by Malika, or part of the head, or majority of the head? This is the Machlekes here. And now the Gemara says, the Tanakama, that first opinion, we had two sources in the Tanakama to tell me that the Oila Sahif, I have to sever the whole head. One is Vihikrivai, that tells me that it's distinct from a Chata Sahif. Chata Sahif, it says V'lo Yavdil, I don't sever the head. Oila Sahif, I do. Then I had another source. It says Umalak, you do Malika. Then you do the Haktara. And then you sprinkle the blood. And the Gemara said, how do you sprinkle the blood after you did the Haktara? Haktara means it's smoked or burnt on the altar. It's already smoked or burnt on the, how do you sprinkle? It says no. That there were two Haktaras. One was the head, you burn the head, and then you burn the body. What does that mean? That it's separated. And then we said that just like the Haktara is done separately, the Malika is also done that it separates the head. So we have two sources for separating the head. So the Gemara says, Ilav v'hikrivai, if I didn't have the source of v'hikrivai, that Oila Saif is different than the Chata Saif, then I would have thought that a Malak v'hiktir is, then I would have used a Malak v'hiktir differently, but I would have said that Kamishpat tells me something else. Remember back to like its ordinance. What would I have said? Hava Amina, my Kamishpat, what does it mean, like its ordinance, like its rule? Kamishpat Chata Saif, that it has the same halacha as the Chata Saif, the bird. Notice the Tanakama doesn't say that. The Tanakama says that Kamishpat is referring to the animal that it's replacing, because this person doesn't have the means to bring that animal. So he brings instead two birds. And he brings the second bird like its rule. I would take it back to I would not take it back to the animal, but I would take it to the bird of its pair, which is the Chata Saif. But I have a Malak v'hiktir that tells me that it's distinct from its pair. That tells me, well, it doesn't say that, but it says that I have to do it separately anyway. So Hava Mina, I would have said Mahaktar Abreisha Shal Mizbeach, just like the burning is on the actual altar. The burning of the Eila Saif is on the altar. So Af Malika Abreisha Shal Mizbeach would have said that the Malika is also on the top of the Mizbeach, which actually it is. But I would have said that that's what I'm learning from Umalak v'hiktir, that just like the Haktara is on the Mizbeach, Umalak is on the Mizbeach. And I wouldn't have said that I have to sever the whole head. I wouldn't have known that. So Hashta the Kasav Rachmana v'hikrivai, but now that the pasuk says that Oila Saif is different than a Chata Saif, therefore Kamishpat cannot be comparing them. What is Kamishpat saying? Kamishpat is taking me back to any animal, that the Oila Saif is similar to the animal, and I learned those three halachas that we're going to discuss. So Darish Bein Namiha. Now I can learn to these two halachas, that first of all it's done on the top of the altar, and also the halacha that we said that you sever the whole head. Okay. Now the Gemara says, Chatas behema de'ina ba ela min achulin minalan. Remember the Tanakama said that the comparison, the Oila Sa'oif, the bird, the second bird that's brought for this person that committed the sin, that he has to bring the two birds. The second one is done like the Chatas behema, like the rule of the Chatas behema. Just like the Chatas behema needs to be brought from Chulin. Chulin means that it's not Meiser money. It's not the second tithe that you could bring to Yerushalayim. It needs to be brought from regular money. How do we know this? So we're going back to the original source. In other words, I I know that a chatas behema needs to be brought from Chullin, and now I'm comparing it to an Eilas Oif needs to be brought from Chullin. The Gemara says, how do I know the chatas behema? Back to the source. You just made a comparison, but who says the first one? So Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Kra. Rav Chisda says, we know it from a pasuk. This is on Yom Kippur. V'hikr v'arnes parachatas ashaloi. That Aaron Akayan brings the bull, the sin offering, which is his, and it says, Rashi points out, it says more than once, ashaloi. Mishaloi v'lei mishal tzibur v'lei mishal meiser.
So maybe it's only for Aaron.
Right, but because it says chatas ashaloi, I think it's telling us that a chatas needs to be brought from personal money and not from meiser money. I'm not sure if this is the source. The rule of meiser ksafim is there's three opinions what meiser ksafim is. If it's when we give tzedakah from the money that we earn, it's not direct on topic, but there are three opinions. If it's deraisa, derabanan, or a minhag, but whatever it is, you can't pay a debt with it. If someone pledged money to the shul, and then he says, "Oh, I have meiser money. I'll go pay that fee or whatever, the seats for Yom Kippur or whatever." You can't pay it up with meiser, but you can pledge originally with meiser in mind. And as you can say, I'm going to buy a chasam bereshis. I have meiser money. I'll use my chasam bereshis. I'll give it to the shul. I'll use it for that. But you can't pay up something, an obligation. So a chatas is an obligation offering. It's not like you're just giving a gift. It's an obligation. You committed a sin, so that needs to be brought from money that's not meiser. I'm not sure if it plays out from this chatas asher loi. There could be other sources for that. Okay, the second halacha was bayoim, that it needs to be brought by day. The Gemara says bayoim mi biyom tzavasi nafka. We have a source that tells me that all karbanos need to be brought by day. So here, what's happening is it's like this odd thing. I have a source. I have a chatas behema, an animal sin offering needs to be brought by day, and I'm learning from the word kamishpat by Eilas Ha'oif that it needs to be brought by day, just like a chatas behema. The Gemara says you have a source that tells you all of them. You don't need to get into that detail and say that Eilas Ha'oif is learned from a chatas behema. B'yom tzavasi tells me that they all need to be brought by day. So the Gemara says kedi naspa. Kedi naspa. Does it say, Reb David, over there, kedi naspa? Does it have a phrase how this is used?
Yeah, it says for no reason.
Yeah, but is there one of them?
Yeah, it says the term kedi means that it's in vain or needlessly. Some hold that it's a contraction of the term kediv, which means falsehood, like the Hebrew word kazav. Others explain that it's a contraction of kedehi, which means as it is. In this context, it means that the matter that was cited in this manner, although it is superfluous.
Wow, so that's interesting. So it's the Gemara uses this term often. It's kedi naspa. That was said just because you were listing a few things, so you threw that one in, but that's not really necessary. He's saying that what I didn't know was that kedi could be kazav, because the zayin and the dalet is interchangeable. Like zahav is gold, but in Aramaic it's dahav. So it's interesting. Okay, the third thing that we learned from the chatas behema is yadei hayamanis, that it needs to be done in the right hand. Mider Rabbi Bar Bechana nafka. We know this from Rabbi Bar Bechana. Dama Rabbi Bar Bechana Reb Shimon ben Lakish. Rabbi Bar Bechana says in the name of Rish Lakish, Reb Shimon ben Lakish, Kol makom shenemar etzbei kahuna ina ela yamin. Anyway, where it says in the pasuk, it uses the term etzba, or it uses the term kayin, like Gumalaka Kayan or Kibala Kayan. If it says the word Kayan, then we know that it's with the right hand. Automatically. That term,
even is lefty?
Is a lefty a mum?
No.
Does it say a lefty is a mum?
It is, for sure.
I think for a Kayan a lefty is a mum.
Oh boy.
Yeah. There's other mumim that are not like really a defect. Like someone that doesn't like to stand in the sun, the Mishnah says is a mum also, which is fine. A lot of us don't like to stand. But the kohen would have to be in the sun. That was considered a so the problem here is that it says hakohen. So why do I have to learn from a chatas behema to tell me that the oila soif needs to be done with the right hand? It says hakohen. So why do I need this like that detail? The kamishpat from chatas behema is telling me that it needs to be with the right hand, just like the animal. I know it's from. It says the word kohen, and the Rish Lakish says, Rabbi Baruch Hana says, name Rish Lakish, that means that it's with the right hand automatically. So the Gemara says, V'idach, the other opinion says that kahuna by etzba, etzba lay by kahuna. That there are two terms that he spoke about, etzba or kahuna. If it says kahuna, that's not enough. That doesn't mean that it's the right hand. I need also the term etzba. And it doesn't say etzba over here. Rashi says we learned from the etzba by Mitzayra. It says that he puts his finger in the what was that? B'tavel hakayin etzbaya yemanis. It says over there that the kohen puts his right finger into the blood, I guess. So, because over there it says etzba hayemanis, so that tells me etzba is the right. From there I learned that all other etzba is the right hand. So, we have an answer. Because there is this other opinion that says that kohen itself doesn't teach me the right. I need etzba. Over here it doesn't say etzba. So now I have to learn this from the chatas behema. And that's what the word kamishpat is telling me. Another Gemara says, "B'tanakama v'Rab v'Rab Shimon mimula orif minalahu." See, Rabbi Yishmael says that kamishpat, that it says by oila sa'oif, it like its ordinance tells me that it's comparing it to a chata sa'oif, and just like the chata sa'oif, it says mimul arpai on the back of the neck. That tells me that the oila sa'oif is also by the back of the neck. The Tanakam and Rabbi Bar Shimon used kamishpat to tell me other things. So how do they know that halacha that it's in the back of the neck? Rabbi Shmuel had it from kamishpat, but they use kamishpat for other things. So the Gemara says, Gamri malika mi malika. They learn, Rashi says it's a mamatzino. Mamatzino is, just like we find over here, that's the way it's done. So it's over there, that's how we'll do it. It's a simple comparison. That if malika, in one instance, is done at the back of the neck, so other malikas will be done in the same place unless we know differently. So, or unless for some reason we should say it's different. Rashi calls it a mamatzino. When we say Rabbi Shmuel, we call it binyanav. It's a binyanav. A binyanav means that I have one place that I have a source for something, and I'll compare everything else to that unless I know differently or unless I see there's something that's different. That's okay. We have a new Mishnah. Kosher b'tayrin. What's kosher for a dove? Pasal b'bnei yaina. Is pasal for a pigeon. Should translate more accurately. For a young pigeon. The young pigeon. Kosher b'bnei yaina. What's kosher for the pigeons? Pasal b'tayrin. That's the opposite. The reverse. That's not kosher for the doves. Tchilas hatziyov bazel bazel pasal. The beginning of it becoming yellow by this and this is not valid. While it's maturing, there's a middle stage. What we're going to learn here is that b'nei yaina, the doves need to be young if they're brought as a sacrifice. I'm sorry, the b'nei yaina, the pigeons need to be young. The tayrin, which are the doves, they need to be mature. There's a middle stage over there where its feathers are yellowing. I was taught in school that it's the feathers around the neck. When they're yellowing, so that's when it's like a teenager. It's not yet an adult, and it's not a child, so you can't consider it. They're totally different birds, the pigeons and the doves. But if it's a pigeon that needs to be young, it's not yet an adult, so that's no good. and for the doves that need to be mature, it's not. For the pigeons that need to be young, it's too old. For the doves that need to be mature, it's too young. That middle stage, just think about teenagers. Nish the hin, nish the hair. It's a middle school type of thing. It's okay. The Rambam.
What is the difference between Tor and pigeons? I mean,
I'll tell you. I don't. The actual bird. I should have a demonstration here to see the two. But
it says the pigeon mentioned is a domestic pigeon, while the dove mentioned is a European turtle dove that migrates, and it includes doves and pigeons, which is found in Eretz Yisrael during the spring and the end of the summer. It's smaller and more delicate than the domestic pigeon, which was typically not domesticated. And then there's a picture.
I'll tell you that the Rambam says that the doves are very faithful, right? They're what? Monogamous, right? The lovebirds, right?
They have the
same mate.
Husband and wife.
Right.
They don't change.
So the mature doves are the ones that are wanted, the ones that are already mated. That's the specialty of the dove. The pigeons are really not faithful. They're better before they're mature. So if that could help us remember when you're going through this, which ones need to be young. The pigeons need to be young. Once they're mature, they're no good.
They're wild.
Right.
But בני ישראל משולים ליונה או תורס? I mean, a lot of time.
B'nai Yonah. Okay.
It says, Rambam says that the Torah insists on younger pigeons and older doves because the meat of a dove is tastier when they're older, and the meat of a pigeon is tastier when they're younger.
There's another source for this. Does he mention this that's about the mating, how faithful they are?
It says Rambam explains the Torah insists on older doves due to their loyalty to their mates.
Loyalty, good.
Since if their mate dies, they will never mate with another.
Wow.
This represents the Jewish people who adhere to Hashem and will not adhere to another God. By contrast, pigeons are jealous, and due to the jealousy, they separate and take other mates. Therefore, Hashem commanded that younger pigeons be sacrificed before they take their mates. In addition, younger pigeons contribute to the loving atmosphere of the nests when they're raised. And
very good.
Professor, you have to move another chairs. You have to be next to the rabbi.
Well, this is good. Very good. Okay. So that's what we learned in the Mishnah, although the Mishnah didn't clarify. The Mishnah was very unclear. It just says what's kosher for this is puzzle for that. And then go figure it out. So
around here, do we have pigeons and doves? We have both.
We have pigeons, that's for sure.
Pigeons, those are those birds.
I've seen doves.
Doves are the ones that are always flying one with another. No. They have a certain song in the morning. Turtle dove, the doves. And the pigeons are these around parks. In New York City, pigeons all over. Is that the same?
Yes.
I assume so. Tana Rabbanan. Now we have a brisa. The brisa is going to be clearer, going to elaborate for the for what was unclear in the Mishnah. Tana Rabbanan. The rabbis taught in the brisa. Toirin gedolim kisherim, ketanim and psulim. Rashi points out, by the way, that the word Tairin with a nun at the end is the Lashon HaMishnah, as opposed to Tairim, which is the Lashon HaPasuk. If you notice, is your Rashi correct here?
yeah,
Okay, now look at this. Tairin. Tairim Dekrakai, and he has a nun. So if you don't correct it, it totally doesn't make sense. It needs to be with a mem. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so the bigger bird, the mature doves are kosher. B'nai Yonah, by the pigeons. Ketanim ksherim and gedolim are psulim. The younger ones are kosher, but the older pigeons are puzzle to be brought as a sacrifice. Nimtza, what comes out is kosher b'tayrim puzzle b'bnei Yonah, kosher b'bnei Yonah puzzle b'tayrim. What comes out is, this is like a re-quoting the Mishnah, that what's kosher for a pigeon is puzzle for a dove, and what's kosher for a dove is puzzle for a pigeon. Okay, now the Gemara before said when we use the term nimtza, what we find is what's kosher from malika is puzzle for shchita. Puzzle, we had to learn something out. What's that coming to teach me? And the Gemara over here does not do that. And Tosfos mentions that because the Gemara over here is not saying something, the Bais here is not saying something different. It's just explaining the Mishnah and it's re-quoting it. It's not telling me something new. It's saying, let me explain to you the Mishnah. And that if we would be writing it in English, that nimtza kasher b'terem puzzle b'nei would be put in quotations. If that's what it means, it's just restating it, explaining what it is. Okay, Taner Rabbanan. The rabbis taught in a Bais. So we said that Taner Rabbanan is an important Bais. It was edited by Rabbi and Rabbi. That's what Reb Shira Gaon tells us. And usually Taner Rabbanan don't start with a name. They always start off anonymously. That's as opposed to Tanya. Those can start off with a name right away. So Taner Rabbanan. It's taught in a Bais. Teirim Gedalim. The doves are mature, but they're not. You can't use the young ones. Sheyachol, because I could have thought differently. Leidinu, we'll make it a logical. Leidinu is used for a kal v'chaimer. Ma b'nei yaina. The word ma, when you in these contexts, usually means what, but you have to translate it just as. You have to switch it. So just as a pigeon, thank you, where it's clear that it's not valid for when it's mature, but but nevertheless it's valid when it's young. So Teirim, the doves that are valid, in a din you see that the Torah is more accepting of the young. We see that by the pigeons. So the doves that are valid when they are older, they for sure should be valid when they're young as well. The Torah is more accepting of them. So Talmud Leimar Teirim, it says no. Teirim Gedalim v'leik Tanim. The Gemara is going to explain how we see it from this. That they need to be mature, not young.
It doesn't say, but over here it says the pasuk, the actual pasuk. It says he shall bring his offering of doves or of young pigeons.
Right. Thank you.
Question?
Yeah.
Noah sent out, I thought it was a dove.
Yeah.
But isn't it called a Yonah there in the Torah? But here we're saying the Yonahs are the pigeons.
Yeah.
So why is the Lashon different here?
I don't know.
Rabbi, the system, Rabbi.
I don't know. I'll tell you. I'm translating this from. There's Rabbi Steinsaltz has confidence in okay, we know exactly which pigeon, which dove, which thing. You know how these things there's mutations in these things, and we don't. I don't know if it's the same one. It's even in our wheat and oats, and we say okay, it's the same. We don't really know. Okay, B'nei Yaina. We're using the term in English. In the Yiddish translations, if they're talking about a certain type of grass in the Mishnayos or whatever, you just say amin gvix, some type of growth. Some type of. They're less confident into how they're going to translate. Okay, B'nei Yaina, it says is ketanin, are young. We're talking about the pigeon. We're translating as pigeon.
Bnei Yonah is the son of the Yonah, so it's
Means young. Right.
Automatically is young.
Right. V'lo gedalim, but it can't be the mature ones. Sheyachol, because I could have thought differently. That's v'leidinhu. I can make this logical kal v'chaimer. Uma teirim, just as the doves, shlei hachshu b'ktanim, they're not valid when they're young. It says they need to be mature. Hachshu b'gdalim, but they are valid when they're older. That means the Torah is more accepting of the mature ones. So b'nei yaina, the pigeons, shehachshu b'ktanim, that they are valid when they're young. In adin shehachshu b'gdalim, they for sure should be valid when they're older.
opposite.
Exactly the opposite. So Talmud Lema, the pasuk says b'nei yaina. B'nei yaina, what does that mean? What does that mean? Ketanav le'gedolim. That means you need to be young, because the b'nei, like you pointed out, like Rabbi pointed out, that b'nei means that they're young, the children of the pigeons. That means we're talking about the young. My Talmudah, the Gemara is asking, how do I see that? Oh, it says doves. That means they can't be young, and the children of the young pigeons. That means they can't be old. How does that tell that to me? So Rava explains. From all the places in the Torah where the Torah mentions this phrase, these birds of Tairim and B'nai Yaina, it never once switched it to say B'nai Tairim and B'nai Yaina. You know, in English we say east and west. We never say west and east. Men and women. We never say women and men. It's it's just somehow that's the way we talk. So in the Torah, it could have used these phrases differently, but every time it didn't. It always said, we don't have one single example of where it said B'nai Tairim and Yaina. We'd say young doves and pigeons. It never once did that. So therefore it's coming to be very specific. Ema, B'nai Yaina, the Kasab Brachmana B'nai. So therefore we'll say that when it says B'nai Yaina, the young pigeons, and it's the Torah says, the Eibishter says, Rachmana the merciful, and says B'nai the young, Ketanim min Gedolim lai. That means that only the young but not the old words. In Tairim, where it says doves, Ibai Gedolim leisei, if you bring the big ones, then that's mature ones good. Ibai Ketanim, oh, I'm sorry, this is a question. Maybe it means Ibai Gedolim leisei, Ibai Ketanim leisei. Over there it's not specific, so maybe if you want, you could bring the big ones, or if you want, you could bring the young ones, because it doesn't specify. It would all go under that same category. The Gemara says no. Dumya de b'nei yaina. It's going to be similar to the young pigeons. Ma b'nei yaina k'tanim min gedolim lai. There's more specification by the pigeons, where it says clearly it needs to be young. So we were asking, maybe that's only by the pigeons. We say no, we're going to compare the doves to the pigeons. Just like by the pigeons, it's specifically the young. There's a specification there. So too by the doves, even though it doesn't specify that it needs to be old, it just says the family. So now, we're going to learn that it needs to be specific. The mature ones, yes, but not the young ones. Okay. New Bais, Tanur Rabbanan. Yachal you call a Tairim v'chol b'nei yaina ksherim. I could have thought